What's up and welcome to Me, You, and Switch 2. I'm me, Tom Tate, and you are you, so we're going to talk about Switch 2. This is the latest and greatest Nintendo Switch 2 news brought to you every Tuesday and Friday in snackable 10-minute episodes. Today is Friday. It is January 23rd, 2026. It is 7:54 a.m. on the East Coast. This is episode 68. I'm going to apologize to you in advance. I am a Final Fantasy VII superfan, so the release of a 6-year-old game might not feel super exciting to you, and I've certainly glossed over a lot of these re-releases and ports that have arrived on Switch 2. Many of them are really good, but I just can't contain my excitement for this particular game. This is a game that I've already played through twice, once on PS4 and once on PS5, but I just have to spend the bulk of today's episode covering Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade. It arrived yesterday on Switch 2. I picked up my copy from Best Buy. I downloaded the 90 plus gigabytes from the game key card to my Switch. I had to move some stuff around. My son is playing MLB The Show. I had to move those 32 gigabytes from the Switch to the SD card so I can ensure that Final Fantasy Remake was playing from the actual console, so it got the best peak performance. I fired it up. I played the first chapter, which I've already played in the demo, but I played through it again because I'm actively playing OG Final Fantasy VII on my Steam Deck, side by side, chapter for chapter, using some PC mods. I'm doing it all over again. I'm loving it. I'm re-immersing myself in Final Fantasy VII. It's been a couple years since I played the OG, so I'm excited to do these side by side. That's kind of how I'm enjoying it. I'm also turning on all of the, not all, but some of the cheats that you can turn on. So, for example, in the new Final Fantasy VII, and I'm doing this on the OG using some mods too, I'm doing double experience points. And then also, when I don't feel like doing a bunch of random encounters, for OG, I'm turning off random encounters. You can't do that for the new one because there are no random encounters. They're placed throughout the levels. But you can turn on 9,999 HP hit points, right? You know, for each attack. So you just kind of blow through enemies. So I'm not doing that for boss battles. I'm still appreciating all of that. But if I need to, get through a part pretty quickly, I'm just kind of speeding through because I already played this game twice. Great game. Nintendo Life has a great review roundup. I'll link to it in the show notes. Here are some highlights, and I'll pull from the roundup, but I'll also pull from the individual reviews, which I read through. Nintendo Insider gave it an 8 out of 10. Sean Musgrave writes about picking up a PlayStation in 1997 just to play Final Fantasy VII. And this was actually me. I bought a PS1 just for this game. I liked Sean's review a lot. I think he really made a point to say that this Final Fantasy VII is not and can't be the Final Fantasy VII that many of us grew up with. And it's not supposed to be. So if you played this game, there's even a meta commentary on how we play with nostalgia and how there's a desire to keep things exactly as we remember them and how we think they're supposed to be. We want to preserve that. And if you've experienced Final Fantasy VII before, you have to kind of resign yourself to the idea that this is both different, but also the same. It's a very interesting experience if you grew up, kind of immersed in the original back in 97 and you experienced that firsthand. Comicbook.com gave it a 4.5 out of 5, saying Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade remains $39.99 on the Switch 2 as it has been on PS5 and PC. And for the hours of solid action RPG combat it offers, that's an absolute bargain in today's market. And I love this point. I mentioned this on the last episode. Square could have easily priced this at $60 to $70. Other games that are getting the PS4, PS5 to Switch 2 port treatment, they are doing this. They are pricing their games at a premium price. And I just love how accessible this pricing is. And it'll surely go on sale at some point later this year and come down a little bit more too. Polygon's Josh Broadwell has an article. He wrote, "Hair so luscious, even the Switch 2 can't keep up. The Switch 2 can handle almost all of Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade except Cloud's hair." Obviously, a commentary on some of the graphic fidelity comparisons to the PS5. Josh wrote, "It's just impressive to see a game designed for PS5 running with comparatively few issues and at a stable frame rate on the Switch 2. With a few exceptions, Square Enix handled the issues like resolution drops that do show up, so they rarely get in the way of what you're doing." Game Informer hasn't reviewed this one yet, but they shared some gameplay on YouTube, and they wrote, Final Fantasy VII Remake on Switch 2 is better than we expected. And IGN's Logan Plant has his thoughts up. One thing I noted from his article is he wrote, I'm still not used to games looking this beautiful on my Nintendo console. And I will say I had a similar experience playing through this first chapter last night. It just looks so good. And Nintendo Life's Alana Haig gave it a 9 out of 10, which is a fantastic score. And she wrote, even in its attempts to swing big and do something different, Final Fantasy VII Remake Intergrade respects where it's come from. The classic's pro-revolutionary heart is still intact, and it's never afraid to get a little weird and funny. The Switch 2 version makes impressively few compromises to get this gorgeous-looking game running on the system. Even at 30 frames per second, this looks and feels fantastic. The fact that everything from the PS5 release is preserved in such excellent fashion here is remarkable, and it makes me excited and anxious about Rebirth's upcoming port. Again, that's a 9 out of 10. So all around, some positive feedback and reviews on this game that has been well explored over the past 6 years, so I won't spend any more time on it. It's received a sequel on PS5 already, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, which will also come to Switch. These versions of the game, along with the third entry, which is in development, should have the exact same gameplay and story beats as the PS5, PC, and potential Xbox versions. Game director Naoki Hamaguchi spoke with Nintendo of Europe recently, and he said, one thing to reassure the fans who want to play these games on Nintendo Switch 2, I've got a personal policy where I don't want to make any versions of my games different or offer a different gameplay experience just because they're on different hardware. That might get confusing for players, and they might wonder which version of the game they should buy. That's something I'd very much like to avoid. The Nintendo Switch 2 versions are being developed in a way that keeps the gameplay experience pretty much exactly the same as all the other platforms. So I hope this reassures Nintendo Switch 2 players. I love this, right? Like, I love this commitment to bringing the experience to Switch 2 in the best way possible. Digital Foundry did their technical review. I'll link to a Go Nintendo article that breaks down a lot of the details of their review. Overall, elements of the visuals and performance, they sit somewhere between the PS4 version and the PS5 version, with a lot of elements of the game and performance leaning more towards PS5, which is great. It is capped at 30 frames per second, which remains decent through handheld and dock play, just 1080p. If you are into the technical performance, definitely check out Digital Foundry's bits on this game. Okay, let's move on from Final Fantasy VII Remake. I'm going to do a quick flash round of all of the other news headlines that I caught. In other news, Donkey Kong Country Returns HD got a surprise update. Dixie Kong is a playable character. There's a turbo attack mode that is fast-paced and timed, and performance and graphics improvements are coming to Switch 2. This is a free update. Nintendo's Kensuke Tanabe announced that Metroid Prime 4 would be his last game at Nintendo, and I'm reading this verbatim from IGN. Tanabe joined Nintendo in the late 1980s as one of its first game designers and worked on classics such as Super Mario Bros. 2 and 3 for the NES, The Legend of Zelda Link to the Past on Super Nintendo, and Link's Awakening for Game Boy. He also worked on Paper Mario, Luigi's Mansion, and then later on worked with Retro Studios on Metroid Prime. True legend, he will be missed. Super Mario Bros. Wonder Nintendo Switch 2 Edition plus Meetup in Bella Bell Park will release digitally on the Nintendo eShop on March 26th. So we finally have a release date for this. I'll break down what's new in that game on Tuesday's episode just because we're running out of time today. New amiibo, that talking plant, the talking flower, will arrive in March as well too. That's available to pre-order now. We'll talk about that on Tuesday. Also in March, we have Snoopy and the Great Mystery Club that comes to Switch 2 on March 17th. Shout out to my favorite podcast, Player One Podcast. They just recorded their 1000th episode last night. One of the hosts, Phil Theobald, plays all of the Peanuts games, and he did play this one recently and talked about it on the show. Ubisoft canceled a ton of projects. That includes the long in development Prince of Persia Sands of Time remake. Bubsy 4D is coming to Switch and Switch 2 on May 22nd, and Switch 2 dominated hardware sales in 2025, but But the video game business intelligence and consumer insight firm Nico Partners is predicting that a global price hike is very likely this year. They predict that maybe the $449 SKU might just go away. So I've been saying this too. If you haven't bought a Switch 2 and you're thinking about it, do it before a price hike. I do think it's going to come. But again, I don't have any insider information. I'm just sharing what I hear in predictions. Long one today, over 10 minutes, but that's it. I'm on Blue Sky at Switch2 Pod. As always, thank you so much for your time and your attention. It means a ton. A kind rating or review on your podcast listening app of choice helps me continue to grow the show. Sharing with a friend, family member, Discord server, subreddit, or wherever gamers hang out goes even further. Switch2pod.com for all the things. We have all the links to all the reviews and articles up there too in the show descriptions. I'm off to work today, and then it's the weekend, and I'm so excited for the weekend, and then I'll be making my way through Final Fantasy VII, immersing myself back into the world of Midgar. Much love. Enjoy your weekend. Now go play some games.